I never believed in ghosts. I didn't believe in curses, demons, or haunted houses. I always thought there was a logical explanation for everything. That was until I moved into apartment 307. The building was old, probably over 100 years. The landlord told me the rent was cheap because the neighborhood wasn't very popular anymore. He smiled when he handed me the keys, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It looked more like pity. The first week was completely normal. Then, on the 8th night, I woke up to someone knocking on my door. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. I looked at my phone. It was exactly 3:13 a.m. Half asleep, I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. No one. The hallway was empty. I figured someone had knocked on the wrong apartment, so I went back to bed. The next night, the exact same thing happened. 3 knocks. Same time. 3:13 a.m. Again, nobody was outside. By the 4th night, I was getting angry. I yanked the door open the moment I heard the knocking. The hallway was silent, empty, but something felt wrong. The air was colder than usual. The lights flickered, and I had the strange feeling that someone was staring at me, not from the hallway, but from inside my apartment. I quickly shut the door and locked it. The next morning, I mentioned it to an elderly woman who lived downstairs. The moment I said, "Someone keeps knocking at my door at 3:13, her face turned completely white. She grabbed my wrist. "Did you ever look through the peephole?" I laughed. "Yeah, every time." She let go of my hand immediately. "You shouldn't have done that." I asked her what she meant. She refused to answer. Instead, she whispered one sentence I'll never forget. "It knows you've seen it." Then she walked away. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my couch with every light turned on. At exactly 3:13, knock, knock, knock. I didn't move. Then I heard something that made every hair on my body stand up. A woman's voice, soft, barely above a whisper. "I know you're awake." I stayed completely still. "I can hear you breathing." My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. Then, silence. For almost a minute, I thought it was over, until I heard footsteps. Not outside, inside my apartment. Slow footsteps walking across my living room. I lived alone. Every door was locked. I grabbed a kitchen knife and slowly walked toward the sound. Nothing. No one. Every room was empty. I convinced myself I was imagining things, until the next morning. My apartment floor was covered in wet footprints. They started at my front door and ended beside my bed, as if someone had stood there all night watching me sleep. I installed security cameras that afternoon. I wanted proof, something real. The following night, I forced myself to stay awake. 3:13. The knocking started again. I didn't answer. I didn't even move. The next morning, I opened the camera footage. The first few minutes showed nothing unusual. Then, exactly at 3:13, the front door slowly opened by itself. No one entered. At least, no one I could see. But the camera caught something else. The shadow on my wall. There was only one light in the room. There should have been only one shadow. Instead, there were 2. Mine, and another one standing directly behind me. My blood ran cold. I paused the video, frame by frame. The second shadow slowly lifted its arm and placed a hand on my shoulder. I remembered that exact moment. I had suddenly felt freezing cold for no reason. I thought it was the air conditioner. It wasn't. I packed everything I owned and left that same day. I didn't even tell the landlord. I drove 4 hours away and rented a hotel. For the first time in weeks, I felt safe. I took a hot shower, ordered dinner, and fell asleep. Then, 3 knocks. I opened my eyes. The hotel clock read 3:13 a.m. My heart stopped. The knocking wasn't coming from the hotel room door. It was coming from the bathroom. Slow, patient. 3 knocks. I called the front desk. No answer. I called the police. The phone had no signal. Then I heard it. A whisper. My turn. The bathroom door slowly creaked open. The light inside was off. It was completely dark. Then I noticed something. Someone was standing in the darkness, perfectly still, watching me. I couldn't see their face, only 2 white eyes, and a smile so wide it looked impossible. I ran. I didn't take my luggage. I didn't even put on my shoes. I drove until sunrise. That was 3 years ago. Since then, I've moved 6 times. I've changed my phone number, changed my job, and even changed my name. But every place I live, every single place, at exactly 3:13 a.m., I still hear it. 3 slow knocks. I've never opened the door again, but last night, something different happened. After the 3rd knock, a voice whispered through the door, "You don't have to open it anymore." A long silence followed. Then, I already came in. If you're listening to this late at night, do me one favor. Check the time. And if it happens to be 3:13 a.m., whatever you do, don't look toward your bedroom door, because if it's already open, you're not alone.